My turtles.
All right, I'm unloading. This is the big scut, mama bear scut, and then next to it I have little bear scut, baby scut, cooling down, and this has got glaze in it. So hope to unload that a little bit later. But this one is our bisque of the stuff that we decorated the other night. It's cool now. I'm gonna unload it, and then we'll get to glazing. This looks like one that we did the other day on the video. I think this is one of them. You can see how all that wax burns away and all the pencil burns away, and then you're left with this really nice clean image.
So it's a good technique. I love it. I love these. Nice little whale there.
Some bowls down there. I've stacked them rim to rim. Save some room in the kiln. Now, I think a lot of people would say, how come you didn't stack them like this in the kiln? How come you didn't stack them like this in the kiln? Wouldn't that take up less space? And the answer to that is yes. But I found that these underglazes, if you stack them like this, the underglaze from the one inside will transfer onto the bottom of this pot. So for that reason, I don't stack them inside each other like most people do when I have the underglaze on them like that, because it does transfer. This is one box we did.
My turtles.
Okay, so for this is our turtle that we did in the last video. It's one of these little jars like this. You can keep your shark teeth in there or whatever you find on the beach. Really cool container. And I'm going to use some of this Amico True Celadon. This is just a gorgeous, gorgeous glaze on so many different clays. I absolutely love it. Thank you, Amico. When I apply this, I try to get on there very thick. Very, very thick. When I try to get it all, sometimes it takes me 2 coats, but a lot of times I can get it all in 1 coat. I just dab it on there like that. 1 to 2 coats does it. But I guess one of the things I wanted to talk about is balancing work with pottery. I'm sure most of you out there are in my position where you work a full-time job. Getting in the studio can be very difficult. So one of the things that really helps me is events like this Artwalk. Setting yourself a deadline and a goal, great way to make time in the studio. I have a deadline coming up. It's Thursday. I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna get as much stuff as I can glazed, and it's a great motivator. And of course, it's just awesome being a part of your community for the art walk like we talked about in the last video. But so a couple things there, balancing school, work, everything. It can be family, it can be difficult, but setting yourself a deadline, joining a show, for example, is a good way to do it. Maybe a juried exhibition that you want to enter, making a deadline, just making the work for it can be a really good way to motivate you to make time for that studio and spend less time on Netflix or whatever else, whatever other distractions that are out there. There's plenty of them, aren't there? Anyway, that's my thoughts on balancing pottery with work. It's difficult, but it can be done, and it's very rewarding when you get it done and you say, hey, I'm doing this full-time job, and you're also making work and experimenting. It's so rewarding and relaxing. Yeah, just go out there and do it. In my case, so I have Artwalk this Thursday, but I also need to make lesson plans for school. I have to go to the dentist today, and a couple other things. You know, you have other things to do. So what I'm looking at is what do I really need to get in this kiln so I can optimize my production as well as still getting everything done. I'm really low on mugs, and I sell a lot of these sea turtle mugs, so I'm going to do several of these sea turtles, and I'm just going to get what I need to get in the kiln so I can complete my other tasks I got to get done for today. So I'll probably be able to spend about 2 to 3 hours glazing, and that's about it. Even that's pushing it. Let me know in the comments, how do you balance work, life, family with getting in your studio? What are your tips? I'd like to hear from you. All right, here we go. So we got our narwhal here, and I'm going to do a clear in this area, and I'm using Amico's mixing clear. Really awesome stuff. I think this is true with most clears. I think most clears have the same thing, is if you put them on too thick, they can get a little cloudy. So I'm going to just do one thick coat, and usually my general rule of thumb is if I can see the drawing through the clear after it dries, then I need to put more on. And if I can't see through the clear after it dries, then I'm all good. And then what I'm going to do is put 2 different rare earth metal glazes that are going to streak very heavily. And I just love that streaking. The mixing clear won't make the underglazes streak at all. But that's something I really like. So I'm going to do that on my other ones. So just right now you can see through it, right? But it's when it dries. If you can still see through it when it dries, you need more. If not, you're all good to go. We got the shark here, and of course, since it's a shark, it's going to be some gray in there, but we like that belly to be white. So I'm going to use the clear here for the belly on both sides. So I'm going to get the clear in there for the belly. And then what we're going to do, these Celadons from Amico are mixable and they work awesome. So I'm going to put some gray in there. I don't want it to be too dark. I'm just going to put a little gray in there to darken the clear up. So there's the belly. Maybe I'll get that little fin down here too. And then we have this one. This is charcoal, or I'm sorry, smoke, C3, and it's a light gray already. So I'm gonna mix this about half and half with the clear. And this will be a nice shark gray, if you will. So I'm gonna mix that up, and that should be the perfect gray color for our shark. And obviously the clear is not clear anymore after you do this. So it's a one-shot deal. So I'm gonna get that on there. This fin right here. All right, we are ready for the next step, and that's to add the rare earth glazes to our narwhals. So I have our narwhal here, and you can see how when the clear dried that one coat, we can no longer see the drawing, so we're all good to go on thickness. And this is a rare earth glaze. This one has neodymium in it, and this one has erbium in it. I can tell because this one's slightly pink and this one's slightly blue, and they settle very quick. So I'm always stirring them, and these are straight out of my bucket for my dipping glazes. So you're gonna see me. I'm gonna put it on really thick. Just let it sit there, and let that thicken up. And these are gonna streak and run down into the narwhal, and I just love runny glazes. And the cool thing about this is they also change colors, or at least this one does, in different light. So it's purple in some lights, blue in some lights, and white in some other lights. So it's awesome, just awesome, awesome, awesome. And it's gonna pull some of that black underglaze and make it streak and make it look really cool. So I'm gonna try to get it on there nice and thick. I actually preheated the pots. They're about 100 degrees right now, just so they absorb the glaze better. This is Aftosa wax from Aftosa. I think they're in California. I've been using this wax for a very long time. It's excellent wax. I'm sure there's others that people claim that are better. I just really like this wax. It lasts a long time. And my trick with it is it's mixed about half and half with water. Might even be more water than that. But I feel like the thinner you get it, the better it paints on. And also, it seems to resist better if it's a little bit thinner. So I keep it really thin, just enough to absorb into the glaze. And it works great. So I'm going to go ahead and wax all these and give the wax about 20 minutes or an hour to dry. And then we'll dunk them in the glaze. Oh, one important thing to note. I am leaving a little bit where the wax does not cover the glaze. It's much better to have a little spot where the glazes overlap and they do some running and streaking and some really cool things than to have a part where you put the wax too far and then you have the bare porcelain, which is kind of dry and scratchy if you don't have any glaze on it. So I'm being careful not to get any wax on the bare porcelain and just leave glaze that's going to overlap and that's going to streak and look cool and just be better anyway. So that's my theory on that. Okay, what I have mixed up here in this little cup, there's the tiniest little bit of alumina hydrate mixed with water, and it's going to be a separator. This porcelain tends to flux out just a slight bit, and so I'm going to put just a little bit of this solution on there. And alumina hydrate is very high refractory, and it's going to separate these two. So it'll make the lid not stick to the pot. So I'm just going to put a little bit here. You can't really see it at all, but there's just enough there that'll separate it. Then we're going to get our wax resist just like before. Got my wax resist, I'm stirring it up right here. Let me zoom out a little bit. Whoops, got a little bit on my wheel. I'm going to go with this wax resist. I'm going to get it right over that alumina hydrate. And now that, of course, is going to resist any glaze from getting on there. Just got to make sure it's really covering up that alumina. If that alumina hydrate gets in the glaze, it's ugly. Just got to make sure it's really on that corner. Okay. You're going to see me using these a lot in my studio, these cups. I'm just going to center that guy up as close as I can. Doesn't have to be perfect. Again, this is one of those things where if you don't leave enough room and it runs, it's going to stick your whole pot together. So it's best to go a little bit farther than you need to, or than you think you need to. And then, of course, you need to do this inside right here. I'm going to use these dipping tongs. We're going to go straight in there, count to 3, pick it up, let it drain, give it a good shake. And then I like to have a sponge nearby. I got a sponge right here to wipe off the bottom and get the flange all wiped up. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Let it drain. Give it a shake. I get it right away with my sponge. Get that bottom cleaned off. Get as much of that off as we can right away. There we go. I'm going to set that aside and do the lid. Here's our lid with the turtle on it. We're going to do the same thing. 1, 2, 3. Blow off the extra. And we'll get the little bits right there. Alright, baby scut kiln here is cooled to 192 degrees. So I say it's about time we open this thing up. Yes, yes, yes. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today. I got the kiln mostly loaded. It's not quite a full load, a little bit shy of a full load, but like I said earlier, we were talking about how to balance work, your job, with your artwork, and I'm out of time. I have to go get my work done. I'd really like to hear from you. Let me know in the comments, how do you balance your job with your artwork? How do you make time for it? What motivates you? Let me know in those comments, and I'll see you in the next time, and we'll unload Mama Bear Scott, who's firing right now. 2 cone 6, it's 160 degrees in there right now. Like I said, I gotta go.